Empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to Scoop World Order. It's time for War Edition. It is Friday night. It is time to fight. We are playing the Georgia Bulldogs tomorrow. It is here. It is go time. It is no more time for cameras, no more time for talking, no more time for feeling bad about Michigan. The opportunity of the lifetime is here, and it is about 23 hours away from kickoff, and I cannot wait for this one. So we appreciate you guys joining us on your Friday night. I hope you guys are having a great week and you're ready for a monster day of college football tomorrow. We are super excited about that. But first, as always, we're thankful for and we're grateful for you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please give us a like on this video. That is huge for us. Subscribe to the channel if you get a second. Comment who needs to be the MVP of the game tomorrow. Give me one on offense, one on defense. I'm going to go with Matt Jones versus Jalen Carter. Defensively, I'm going to go Mike Hall. We need a guy that can pass rush, get after Stetson Bennett, make him uncomfortable. I'm going to go with Mike Hall. I love what I'm hearing about him. First two steps are back. Sounds like the rotation is getting fixed to keep him happy. He's probably our best defensive lineman, and he plays about 17 snaps, so that needs to get doubled tomorrow. And if that does, I feel really good about where we are at. With that being said, it is time to bring in my good friend and Buckeye expert, Nevada. Nevada, how are you tonight?
Doing great. You know, so it's kind of a bowl palooza. Been watching these SEC teams playing the bowl games so far, and it's been less than impressive. I got to tell you, like it's not like the SEC is tearing it up during the bowl season. Lots of reason for optimism, and for those that are bettors, the lines moved down to 6 points on the betting markets right now. So it's the line's definitely moving in the direction of Ohio State, which is always kind of an interesting data point before a big game like this. So. 23 hours away. Can't wait. Let's line it up and get her done.
Yeah, I don't know why. Every day that this has gone on, I've felt better. I don't know if it's the mannerisms of the players. I know you can't get a lot out of press conferences. They're pretty pointless nowadays. These guys are so coached up. The coaches are coached up by media professionals. The players are coached up by media professionals. But you can sense a palpable anger within the players, and I don't think it's just palpable. I think like what these guys have gone through in the last month of being humiliated at home by Michigan. There's some prideful, tough guys. Tommy Eichenberg's a guy I'd go to war with any day. He could play for any team, any era. Some of these guys, and you know, he had a couple plays that he really wants back. He didn't play well. Gave up some big plays. He should have been in his gap. And I think when you're a guy like that, who's a tough guy, a prideful guy, it eats at you. And like you're like a dog you're like a pit bull in a cage trying to get out and go eat something. And it's like he's gonna have a chance tomorrow. And that's the exciting thing is these guys, they have the opportunity that you only get once in your life. You don't, there's no guarantee they'll be back in the playoffs next year. This could be it for these guys, and there's anything can go wrong in college football, but it's just literally right here in front of them. And they had the opportunity to get in. It's a lot like the 14 team that won 59-0 against Wisconsin. There's some energy there. I think it's kind of it's a different type of energy because these guys are obviously coming off of a loss, but that was a loss where I know it's crazy when you look at the scoreboard that it looks like a just an absolute massacre, but you go back and watch the film and it's really close. There's it's a couple inches here, a couple inches there, and we beat those guys. So I know that sounds insane and that sounds like absolute Kool-Aid homerism, but I watched the film. It's not like we were just getting blown off the ball and massacred. I've seen that before. I will tell you if it was like that. It wasn't like that. There's a couple guys that didn't do their jobs on a couple plays, and it cost us in a major way. But, if these guys get it going and, these guys are motivated and guys like Ronnie Hickman, Lathan Ransom, those guys play, better than they did. They played the worst games of their careers this past game. So any production above an F is better and can lead us to a win against Georgia. I think Georgia is obviously the best team in the country, but I don't think they're as good as they were last year. I don't think it's even close. Defensively, they're nowhere near as good as last year. Now, they're still the best defense in the country, but it's all kind of relative. I think that, last year's team with Jordan Davis and the number one overall pick at D end and Nakobe Dean, I mean, they had that was maybe the best defense in college football history. This defense is not that. They're good, but, when you give up 500 yards in your last game, I don't care if it's garbage time. 500 yards is 500 yards. It was a lot like, I go back to that 14 Auburn Iron Bowl where Auburn, I'm going to look that number up during this podcast, ran for, I think, like almost 260 yards against Alabama. And that was a team that was supposed to like kill us. And I was like, I don't know what you guys are watching because I just watch film. I don't look at jerseys. I don't get scared. I just study personnel and I study, what they do versus what we do, and I like the matchup. So, Nevada, how you've gone into your prediction on BuckeyesScoop.com, where if you guys aren't on BuckeyesScoop.com, it's by far the most active message board. It's probably more active than every message board combined over the last week. So it's just the Rolls Royce community. Thank you, members that are on this live. But Nevada, do you want to get into kind of what led up to your prediction and how you feel about the game and how maybe it's grown in confidence over the last couple weeks?
Yeah, well, like you said, it's a lot of little different things, and you're looking really for kind of how has bowl prep been for Ohio State, because you and I both seen bad bowl preps before, and how's the mood of the team, how's the game plan, how do our strengths match up against their weaknesses, and vice versa, and where's Ohio State at mentally, where's Ohio State at physically, how are they going into this game. And then you look for other things. You look for other little context clues, like how's the SEC doing during the bowl season? How are the betting markets moving? How has Ohio State historically done in spots like this? And I won't give away the whole goose, but I'm one of the few people out there. I've picked Ohio State to win this game. I know I'm one of the rare people to do that, but I did. I picked Ohio State to win the game. And somebody asked me today, they're like, "Hey, Nevada, have you ever picked against Ohio State?" And I'm like, not often, but Ohio State's only lost 14 games in 11 years. So it's like picking against Ohio State is not really a great proposition if you're doing that. So as an Ohio State fan, there's lots of reason for optimism, but as a person who studies this and does this for a living, I feel really good about the Buckeyes' chances. I feel really good about the Buckeyes' chances. I think I've been saying it in every podcast. I think they're going to defy expectations and play a lot better than people think. And I think they've got a game plan that if they execute and just don't make silly mistakes, that they can win. This is definitely a beatable Georgia team, and it's definitely a winnable game. And I think the Buckeyes are going to put it together and play their best game of the year. So I've got the Buckeyes to win, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Again, people, they can say you're being a homer, but when you cover Ohio State and they've got the highest winning percentage in the history of college football, they recruit like madmen, well coached. They've played in big games. They've had great coaches from Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, Ryan Day. It's hard to pick against them. It really is. And then when you have this motivation, you have this chance to salvage what was a disaster against Michigan. I mean, you can wipe all of that away by winning these next two games. Even if you just win tomorrow, it does a lot of good to kind of, dispel a lot of the rumors of the demise of the program, because we have talent. I mean, they did an analysis of the blue chips on the roster, and the only team that has more blue chips on their entire team is Bama. We have more than Georgia. So there's no talent gap. Our quarterback's better than Stetson. Like, I mean, if you just, Stetson Bennett, maybe in a one-game playoff, you could say, well, he's 29 years old or whatever he is, and he is what he is. He's won a ring, but nobody's taking a hip over CJ Stroud. Our receivers are light years better than Georgia's. I think our offensive line is really good. I think we have two tackles. One's going to be the highest drafted tackle since Orlando Pace and Paris Johnson. I think DeWand is a fantastic college tackle. Probably be a mid-round guy in the NFL next year. Our interior, Donnie Jackson could be the best guard that we've had in a really long time. Luke Whippler is a guy that could be an early out guy after this game, after the championship game. I like the matchups. I think no matter how good our guys are in the interior, you have to help against Jalen Carter. I've said that 6,000 times. If that guy beats us, that's on the coaching staff. It's not on the players. I don't think we have anyone up front that can handle him one-on-one. And I'm not trying to put him in some sort of God tier, but I'm just saying, look, the guy's really good. And when they have one guy who stands out above the rest as a pass rusher, don't let that guy beat you. They don't have the depth that they had last year where they had, the Moose inside at nose guard who won every award. They don't have, Walker, the number 1 overall pick. I mean, last year it was hard to double team anybody because they had Jordan Davis and Travon Walker. I mean, they just had guys everywhere, so you couldn't really do it. But this year, Jalen Carter is heads and shoulders above everybody else in their front four. And again, I would tempo, I would cut, I would have the running back wham the guy. There's a million things you could do to make his life miserable, and I hope we do all of them, because that's what I would do. If I was the line coach, I'd be like, look, let's be real. We need to help on this guy. We need to do stuff. We need to move the pocket. We need to run nakeds. You can't just let CJ drop back and be a statue and get smoked. Because, I mean, that's what Georgia wants. They're hoping that that happens. I don't think it will happen. I think that Justin Fry is smarter than that as he designs these protections because, you know, you're always looking for the guy that is the weak link. And right now, Matt Jones with his ankle injury is the weak link. And that's the guy Georgia's going to attack. I'm just being honest. I think Matt's a great kid, a great player. But, you know, when you've got a bad ankle and you don't have the power that you're accustomed to, he struggled down the stretch. And he missed the Michigan game. It hurt us dramatically. I mean, Enoch struggled. Josh Fryer struggled. So I think Matt Going is a boost for the offensive line, but I still think you need help against Jalen Carter. I think we have to be more physical than we've been. I think something that this line is just lacked is we're just not a physical offensive line. We're ultra talented, but we're not physical. Some of that's by play calling design. You know, when we run nothing but stretch and we run sideways and we don't physically get vertical and double team guys, you don't really have the opportunity to be physical. I think that there's some opportunities where these guys could go, get a piece of some of these guys. They don't. You know, they kind of just finish the play as easy as they can, and they don't take the extra shot on guys. And I was always a big proponent of, look, if you can go hit a guy in the ribs when if your D end is locked up with your tackle and you're an open guard and the center's fine, go out and kill that guy. And you see that all the time. Like the best guards in the NFL do that constantly, where you'll have a guy spinning inside and he'll just get tattooed by a really good guard. And that guy will never spin again. He'll never go inside again because there's going to be a guard who's going to hit him with the crown of his helmet. And that's the kind of thing that I think we could be a lot better at. And I'm hoping that these guys realize that physicality is Georgia's calling card. And the best way to beat a physical bully is to be more physical. I mean, this isn't a really hard litmus test to see how this game's going to go. Georgia prides themselves on being physically tough, and we have to be the tougher team. The tougher team tomorrow will win. So is Ohio State up to it? I think they are. These guys have been dog whipped by their friends. Their families had to read about the insults to them. And if these guys have pride, they're going to be fired up and ready to go tomorrow. And not to mention, there's nothing better than playing a road game, in a bowl game. Everybody hates you. Georgia's fans are going to be booing. They've been surrounded by Georgia Bulldog fans. Their families have been surrounded by Georgia Bulldog fans. It's really bad down there right now. And what better way to silence that entire state than to beat the Georgia Bulldogs tomorrow night? Nevada put up a great nugget today. What were some of the things we talked about? Obviously, there was the camera incident, which got a lot of traction because, again, we weren't looking for that. We got that tip from inside the Ohio State program, and I was stunned that happened, but it did. But what else do you glean from some of the stuff you've gotten in the last 24 hours?
Well, I think Ohio State's going to be doing some interesting things with their signaling, with their wristbands, with their play calling, in terms of how they're trying to create some sort of issues for Georgia from stealing their signs. And I think that's a big thing. Ohio State had a famous game against Michigan where they went in at halftime and changed the wristbands out because they were worried about the signs being taken. And I think there's a similar concern with Kirby Smart. I think they're going to a different type of signaling system, and I think that's going to be a interesting thing to watch, for tomorrow night. And to me, what that probably indicates is they're probably going to go fast. They're probably going to try to go fast, probably early and often. And that's the way, we've talked about how to neutralize that Georgia front four. Well, going fast is one way to do it. You can gas those guys in a hurry. And, I think that's really going to be one of the kind of the game inside the game, as far as I'm concerned, is, back to the camera for a second. They found a sticky label on the camera that said K Smart. So we don't know who that is. So if anybody out there knows who that could be, that was his camera, or his or hers. K could be Karen Smart. But whoever that is, let us know. Please, put that on the comments who that could possibly be. Because that was the camera that was on recording and pointed towards the field. So, lots to glean out of the nugget, lots of good information on BuckeyeScoop.com and stuff you can get anywhere else. But K-Smart on the sticky label.
It wasn't W. Muschamp or like no Sean Moreno or anything, or it didn't have like a Florida Gator logo from when Will was the head coach. It's funny because we went against him in the Gator Bowl in 2011 in the dumbest game that's ever been played in the history of Ohio State football, when we didn't take the bowl ban that year, when we had a coaching staff that was fired. We had, I don't know, like I don't even want to get into that, but we went against Muschamp that year, and he's pretty exotic. Like I think he'll have some stuff for us that we haven't seen yet. Again, he mentioned that he's studied every he studied every single CJ Stroud run of his career. He's talking about the COVID year when he had the long run against Michigan State, how he is a runner. And I thought that was interesting because I really think that they're prepared for CJ to potentially run, which I think is good because, I don't know if he ever will, but if he does, you look at the games where Craig Krenzel against Miami, Cardell against Bama, their running is what won us the game. I mean, you convert on 3rd and 8 and you carry the ball and, then all of a sudden you run over Landon Collins. Like that changes everything. Like people don't realize how important that kind of stuff is. But for me, I think it's kind of everything. Like, I think the game really is going to come down to CJ Stroud. He's, I mean, you don't want to put it on one guy, but in a game like this, he's got to be better than Stetson Bennett, and he's got to be markedly better than Stetson Bennett because their defense is better than our defense. So, I think CJ, for him to really make a mark in his career and not just have a bunch of hollow yards against Rutgers and Indiana and Penn State, like he's got to win this game. And I think he can. Like, I really do. I think that, these guys, when you have the receivers we do with Emeka and Marvin, you can win any game. Like that's the thing we found out last year at the Rose Bowl is that, you lose Garrett and you lose Chris Olave, and then all of a sudden you get to that Rose Bowl and there's really no drop off. Now I know Jackson Smith and Jigba got off, but if you put Emeka in that same spot against a running back covering him, you probably get the same result. So I love the matchups of the secondary. I love the yardage. So I looked up that Iron Bowl from 14. When everybody was scared to death of Alabama and, there's no way we can beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl down in New Orleans. And, that year Auburn was 8-4 and they played Alabama, who was obviously undefeated until they saw us. And Bama beat them 55-44, and Bama gave up 456 yards passing to Nick Marshall and 174 yards on the ground to a 4-loss Auburn team. So, again, like I remember like watching and studying that game going into that Sugar Bowl, and I'm like, are we looking at the same game here? Like, I mean, I know everyone's scared to death because it's big bad Alabama and they have a number on the side of their helmet and Nick Saban, but I'm like, that defense isn't what they're used to putting out on the field now. Like, I mean, like good Alabama defenses didn't give up 600 yards in a month. They gave up 600 yards in their last game. So it was weird to me, or excuse me, not their last game, but like their rivalry game, which was actually at home as well. So I don't know. Like I always kind of look at like how they've been doing down the stretch. Take it, from not just looking at the jerseys, because I think people get obsessed with, oh well, look how good they were, last year, or oh it's Georgia, oh whatever. And like again, Georgia is the best team in the country, but I think they're very beatable. And again, I could be completely crazy, but when Garrett Nussmeier goes 15 for 27 for 294 yards as the backup, and 2 touchdowns, Jaden Daniels, who got knocked out of the game, was 16 for 24. I mean, they completed over 60% of their passes for 502 yards. And this was and they have a terrible offensive line. LSU has one of the worst lines in the country. They take anybody with a pulse to play there. So, I think that you compare that, and LSU's got a really good receiver, Keyshawn Boot, but he's not Marvin and he's not Emeka. So I don't know. I look at that, and you give up that kind of yardage to an LSU team that can't block anybody, that's got 4 losses, that was coming off of a loss to Texas A&M, and they beat, they dropped 30 on Georgia. I don't know. Like I could be completely crazy reading things wrong, but I really like the way things are trending. Again, it's, I would much prefer to play in the weirdest sense. And I've talked to you about this, Nevada. I just feel like when you lose that game, it gives you a chance to really, recalibrate. Let's get right. We're not perfect. We're not as good as people say we are. We're not as highly rated as people say we are. And, if we're lucky, we get one more shot, and they got that shot. So I don't know. I've just been studying this thing to death, man. And it's like, I just think that there's a lot of holes. I think that they don't have that superstar wide receiver. That Bama team had Amari Cooper, who's made $200 million in the NFL. They had Derrick Henry. They had some Cam Robinson left tackle, who's like an $80 million left tackle. They've got some brand names, and I don't see that that level of quality on the offense for Georgia. And again, I could be completely wrong, misreading it, but what do you think? Who do you think needs to be the MVP in Nevada? I asked that in the chat, but who do you think?
Well, I think Ohio State's going to have to generate a pass rush. You're going to have to get some pressure on Stetson Bennett, and from that standpoint, you look to anybody that can kind of generate a pass rush against them. Anybody that puts some pressure, defeat their guys up front. And that's going to be JT. That's going to be Jack Sawyer. That's going to be Mike Hall. That's going to be somebody on the up front that can kind of create that kind of pressure. And offensively, everything's going to run through CJ Stroud. And you talk about, Muschamp talks about every run by CJ, which is probably got to be a pretty short little book that they put up there in terms of video. But I think he's going to have to run. Watching these bowls, and I've said this over and over and over again. You watch the bowl games down to the Tennessee Clemson game tonight. That every single bowl game, the quarterbacks pick up big yards for him, and CJ's going to have to pick up big yards because tomorrow's going to be a game of being able to move the chains, and those 3 yards that you get on 3rd and 3 or those 4 yards you go to make a 2nd and 9 down to a 3rd and 5 or something like that. That's going to be the difference in the game. Who's going to be able to pick up those tough, greasy yards, and CJ's going to have to be a dog. I know there's been articles out on ESPN about his upbringing, and I know some people have been talking about no, he's not soft, he's a hard dude. Well, let's see it tomorrow. Because to me, it's not about what kind of life he lived or where he's been or whatever. It's how he plays, and tomorrow's going to be a real big measure about how he plays. You got a chance against Georgia, play hard, play tough. I know he can't play defense as well, so he can only do his part on offense. But do your job on offense, keep the chains moving, do whatever you have to do to keep it going, and let's put on a good effort to keep it close or not keep it close and try to steal this game in the fourth quarter. So just for me, the MVP is on the offense, kind of an obvious answer, but it's got to be C.J. Stroud, and he's going to have to lead us tomorrow and not have the moment be bigger than him.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he has to play his best game. I mean, again, I think that this secondary, if we can keep him upright, if we could just keep Jalen Carter away from him, which I think we can, and I know that I sound crazy, but again, LSU's offensive line is trash. So, I think that our guys are better. I think that, people, they like to say, oh, look at this line that Justin Frye inherited. I'm like, yeah, he inherited Paris Johnson. Will be the highest drafted tackle since Orlando Pace. So he's fantastic. DeJuan's going to get drafted. Donnie Jackson was first team All Big Ten. Luke Whippler was, I think, in a year of great centers in the Big Ten, was third team All Big Ten. Any other year, Luke Whippler's first team, but they had the transfer from Virginia that won he won the Remington Award for the top center, so he took first. And then there was a really good center elsewhere, I think maybe Minnesota. So I mean, Luke any other year would be a first team guy. Again, like All Big Ten is great, but it really depends on who else is in the league that year. Like my junior year, I really had a good year, and I was second team All Big Ten, but I was behind Joe Thomas and Jake Long, who went first and third in the draft. And the other tackle that I was second team All Big Ten with was Levi Brown, who went fifth overall. So I mean, it just depends on who's in your conference at that given time. But I like Matt being back. I hope that they can protect him a little bit. Because again, I know that he's got a bad foot. I know that he's nutting it up and playing, and I appreciate that. Guys that gut it up and they're warriors, and they're going to go out there and fight for their boys. But I think that we have to generate pass rush, as you mentioned. I think that's going to be critical. The hardest part is we were generating pressure versus Michigan, but they beat us on it. We were running cover zero blitzes, and there was nobody home. And that's again, that's the risk reward. That's the go out on your shield mentality that Nevada Bucks talked about a lot. And I think that that's what you got to do, because there's no reason to keep one in the chamber for Sunday, because Sunday tomorrow might not be there if you guys don't get this one done tomorrow. But I think that we've got a great chance. I think that Ryan Day, again, for all of the nonsense he's dealt with from the fan base, from the national media, from other coaches at other programs, he's got a real chance to tell him to shove it tomorrow. And then the following week, I mean, if he wins the national championship, who knows? And again, that could be pie in the sky, but in 10 days we'll know. And really in 24 hours we'll know. But Nevada, what other matchups or players do you think need to have maybe career games for us to beat Georgia tomorrow?
Well, I mean, our cornerbacks have got to. We talk about Georgia not having elite wide receivers on the outside, but I mean, we've been beaten by some guys that were less than elite this whole year, and we're going to have to cover better than we've done, cover better than we have all year. And the good news is, I think we're healthier back there than we've been. Now the question is going to be, are we talented enough? And I think that's an open question. I think it's a fair question. It's a fair criticism of this OSU defense, and we're going to find out a lot tomorrow. But I think our cornerbacks are going to have to have a career game for us to be successful against Georgia, because I look back on I watched Maryland play today, and Maryland had trouble moving the ball at all in their ball, even though they were ultimately successful. Against us, they didn't have much trouble moving it, and I think we've got to get that fixed, and hopefully we do. And I just have an overriding belief in Jim Knowles that Jim Knowles will get it done. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe he isn't the Jedi Master that I think that he is, but I think he is, and I think he's got some things in store for Georgia that can slow them down. But it's going to start with the cornerbacks, and it's going to end with the cornerbacks, and we'll find out. Like you said, in 24 hours, all these questions will be answered, so we'll know.
I mean, what is the SEC's record in the bowl games? I mean, oh my God! I think
they're 1-3. I think 1-3, and yeah.
So yeah, because I mean, Florida lost 30-3. They got just absolutely dominated. South Carolina lost today. So again, does that matter? Is it real? I don't know, because with opt-outs and whatever, it's Missouri lost. Hell, there's 3 losses right there. I mean, is anyone else play? I'm just kind of sorting through this. Arkansas won. Ole Miss lost. There's 1-4. Yeah, so they're 1-4 right now. So again, does that mean anything? Probably, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, with opt-outs and these guys transferring and the way that the portal works, I mean, most of these teams, if they're not in the playoffs, half their team leaves. So I don't know what that means, but it can't hurt. I mean, that's the thing about, when you see that a conference is 1-7, 1-8, whatever it is going into your game, how good is that conference? I mean, Georgia struggled with Missouri on the road. And again, they're a very talented team, but I think that we've got, a really good shot. We've got a really motivated team. They've got some key guys out. I don't know if Ladd McConkey is going to be able to go or be full strength, because he had a knee injury in the SEC championship game. Their right tackle is very, very doubtful right now, which should put Amarius Mims in, who's a guy he's a true sophomore, didn't play a lot this year. He was in the portal earlier this year. He was a guy that I literally said Ohio State should have gone after, but he came back to Georgia. So, it's not always plug and play when you put a true sophomore who hasn't played much at right tackle. You got JT out there and Jack, and you got Zach Harrison. I mean, those guys can take advantage of that guy. The lights are going to be real bright tomorrow, and just because they're the number 1 team in the country, when they have some guys out at key spots, the right tackle is a good player. And, if they have to play the backup or they have to play the right tackle kind of a rotation because he's dinged up, that's something Ohio State should take advantage. They should absolutely blitz. They should blitz the right side incessantly. I think that anytime there's a new offensive lineman in, you want to make his life as hard as possible. I think that a lot of what Georgia does on defense is they like to overload one side and put Jalen Carter and someone else on the other side, make the line slide one way, and then give Jalen Carter some manufactured one-on-ones. And I think that we have to do some things to combat that. I think you need to sprint out away from it. I think that there's a lot of mechanisms you can do to counter what Georgia likes to do. And I think that the whole key to the game is going to be weathering the initial storm from Georgia's defense, because Georgia's defense, when the game starts off, when they had Spencer Lanning last year and they played Bama the first drive, I mean, they showed bear. They lined up in bear and shifted out of it. They ran a 2 down front. I mean, they run some crazy stuff early in the game because they want to get you nervous. They want to get you on the sideline with your whiteboard and your markers, drawing up all these crazy looks and getting guys to kind of, take their eye off the ball of just playing their game and being physical and knowing your assignments. Because the thing that's great about playing offensive line and having blocking schemes is, as long as you know your assignment, you can literally block anything. Okay, I got the B gap, I got the A gap, I got, I'm gapping. Okay, I got the zone to my right. Offensive line is not very hard to coach. It's hard to get the technical stuff and getting people to work in concert together. But that being said, there's only so much stuff a defense can do. And at the end of the day, if your assignment sound, you can pick up anything on the fly. And if there's certain looks that they run, like Will Muschamp is a huge Bear defense guy. Bear defense is what Bud Foster did in 2014 against us. I don't know if he has the balls to do that against Ohio State with Marvin Harrison and Emeka out there. Obviously, Bud Foster had the balls to do it against JT when our receivers, when we were starting Corey Smith and whoever else we had, and those guys couldn't beat man coverage. But I think, if you could run that against our guys, then we should fire Ryan Day and the entire offensive staff, because when you have Marvin and Emeka, if they're getting one-on-one coverage, manned up on the outside, we should absolutely shred Georgia. So I hope they do run Bear defense. I don't think we'll be that lucky, but Will ran that against us when he was at Texas in 2006. He ran Bear defense. He ran it when we played the Gators in 2011. I'm sure we'll see it tomorrow. I know for a fact Justin Fry has a good plan for that. He's a guy that's a very astute offensive line coach. He's a guy that he remembers that Virginia Tech game. He remembers the look of panic in Urban Meyer's face and Ed Warner's face when they couldn't figure out how to, counteract the Bear defense. And I know for a fact that he keeps, Bear adjustments in his back pocket for every game. So I've got a very, very good source on that. And I think that it's smart because, Will Muschamp's a big Bear guy. And if you study these guys as much as these guys, I've studied these guys. I'm not even coaching or playing, and I've studied these guys incessantly, and I just know kind of what they like to do in big games. I think something that the staff does really a good job at is they look at Georgia, not just the last year or 2 years. They look at their big games they've played over the last 5 years, in the Kirby Smart era, just to see if there's any wrinkles that they like to throw in early in games, because that's what good staffs do. They try to unearth any craziness that could happen and prepare their offense, particularly their offensive lines, for it. So, Nevada, I just, as I go into this further and further, who else, you name the corners, are there any other players or coaches even that you think need to have the best game of their season, if not their careers, for us to beat the Georgia Bulldogs?
Well, Ryan Day just needs to have a good game. I mean, he needs to be in rhythm. He needs to be aggressive. Most importantly, he needs to be going. He says that he's going to go into this thing attacking this as if he's got all 4 downs to make 10 yards. We'll see if he does. We'll know, because if he does, then I think that's the kind of attitude you're going to have to play against Georgia. So, we talk about the quarterback position on the players. Well, from Ryan Day, from a coaching standpoint, he needs to play loose. He needs to call a loose game. He needs to call a game like nobody gives him a chance to win. And using all 4 downs is really, really effective. But that puts so much pressure on the defense when you do that. And I hope he comes out and does that. And as a fan, I'm willing to live with the consequences of that as well, because sometimes that doesn't work out. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. But I'd rather go out there and try to use all 4 downs to get 10 yards. And, like I said, let the chips fall where they may. And I want to make a couple more observations just from watching all these bowl games. I watched so many bowl games this year, probably more so than I have in a long time. And the first thing is, to anybody who says the bowl, and this is a popular take out there in Twitter land and on the message board, these bowl games don't matter. The only bowl games that matter is the college football playoff and the national championship. Well, I'm telling you what, these bowl games have been terrific. They have been terrific. They've been exciting. They've been entertaining. And the players that have played in them, the ones that aren't opting out, sure seem to be having a good time. They sure seem to be excited about the outcomes of some just terrific games, and the fans seem to be excited. So I think the reports of the death of the bowl system have been greatly exaggerated, because I think the bowls have been absolutely terrific this year. One. Secondly, is this being applicable to the Ohio State game tomorrow? If you throw the ball deep, I would say at least 30 to 40% of the time you get a pass interference call. So just go back and throw it's uncanny. Every time you go back and throw deep, they'll throw the flag on just about anything. If you can just make any move towards the ball, move into the guy, throw your arm up, lock your arm in, run back, run sideways, get your legs caught up, throw your arms up in the air, you will get a flag at least 30 to 40% of the time. That's on top of the times that you actually complete it. So it's a net positive play for you at least 50, 60% of the time. And that's a very, plus play for any type of offense. So I know they've talked about Ohio State going deep and working the cornerbacks against Georgia on the deep shots. can't say that enough. And little thing, do it to your sideline. Throw the ball deep to your sideline, because then you've got 85 guys on your sideline all screaming pass interference, and you'll get the call. And that may seem like a little thing, but if you're work the play design to go to your sideline. And again, you may call me crazy, people out there, oh, Nevada, that's insane, that's a conspiracy theory, but I'm telling you, you throw it deep, throw it toward your sideline, throw your arms up in the air, you'll get the pass interference call, and those are big plays. Those are overpowered plays. Not quite as overpowered as in the NFL, but certainly overpowered in college. First down, 15 yards, and those are game changers.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, in the words of Funky, those are OP, overpowered. And again, that's why I love throwing it deep. I mean, because imagine you're a cornerback and you've got a monster like Marvin Harrison lined up across from you, and you have to go make a play when you know that guy can play the ball better than any receiver in the country, maybe any receiver in college football history, and you got to go figure out a way to make a play on him. Aren't you going to panic sometimes and maybe interfere, maybe try to tackle him, maybe try to prevent him from getting a 60-yard gain? So if you tackle him, it's only a 15-yard gain. Of course you are. So I mean, I think when you've got Emeka, a lot of talk about Jaden Ballard, a guy that can just take the top. Because again, Jaden has to run one route, deep, go deep, fast as you can. We'll throw it as far as we can. You go catch it. He did it all the time in high school. He's been hurt all year. He's had almost zero production all year. But, if you're going to be a one-trick pony, this is a great team to unveil that trick against, because, they're not going to have you on the scouting report because you didn't even play this year. You had an irrelevant season. And, this is a game where, you can make a name for yourself. I mean, we got Brandon Innes coming in. We got Carnell Tate coming in. We got guys who are coming to take jobs next year. So, this would be a great time for Jaden to step up and show out a little bit versus Georgia. Because, again, if he goes on the field, nobody will even know that he exists as long as Emeka and Marvin are out there. I think this is a game where you got to give Marvin 15 targets. You got to give Emeka 10 touches. Give him jet sweeps. Give him the orbit sweep. I think Emeka is the most underused guy on our entire offense, and he's a 1,000-yard receiver, but I still think he's underused. I think he's a guy that needs to touch the ball 15 to 20 times. If we have 70 plays, he's that good. He's tough, physical. He's like a running back. He can get on the edge. He's got elite quickness, great dexterity. I think he's just a fantastic player. And you got to use those guys. You got to wear these guys out with Marvin and Emeka. Those guys have to be the horses. I think our running backs are all good. I think they're all kind of, B-ish, B-plus players, plain Janish type players. We don't have an Ezekiel A-plus type guy, and that's fine. If you got 3 B-pluses, that's as good as having 1 A-plus. And, just keep hammering these guys. I think, to help the O-line feel a little more comfortable, I think you got to come off the rock. You got to block these guys, double team these guys. Excuse me. And, take shots with CJ. Run, shot, run, shot, run, shot, run. I think that's the way you beat Georgia. Don't let the D-line get momentum and get sacks and get pressure early. Don't let the D-line substitute. Go fast. I'm telling you, I've seen it. I love it. When you tempo the right way, I'm just telling you, there's nothing a D-line hates more than a team that tempos those guys to death. Absolutely nothing. So we banned some people. Appreciate you guys hanging in here and pointing out who the Georgia fans are who are talking trash. Those guys all get banned. What question do you guys have? We appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Sue, do you have a question, or any of you guys that are basically on all of our lives? If you have a question, holler at us in the chat line. We'll post that up right now. But Nevada, I really think that you've got some you have some good points. The wristband thing I think is huge, just because they know that Georgia likes to pick signals. They know they're really good at it. The wristband's a great way to prevent signals. Tressel used to use the wristbands. Tressel used to change the wristbands against Michigan. He changed it every quarter because he was that paranoid against Michigan. Most of the time he would change it at half, unless we were playing OU or Youngstown State or somebody where it didn't matter what we called, we were going to beat them. But when we played Michigan, he would change it usually every quarter, if not every half. Really militant about it, just because he wanted to make sure that, the only doomsday scenario with a wristband is if for some reason, you don't get every kid's wristband, every starter's wristband, because you got to make sure you get CJ Marv, Emeka, Jaden, Julian Fleming, the running backs and the offensive line's wristbands. And they're not, using an old wristband on the practice sheet. Because we actually had that happen in practice before, where we would signal in a number, and we had guys run the wrong plays because they had an old wristband. They had a wristband from the day before, and that usually is when one of the GAs or we usually had an intern that was in charge of that would get crucified because he didn't change the wristbands out, because like a wristband, as weird as it is, it's a pretty nice process. You have to print them all out, laminate them, put them in the new little Nike sleeves they have. So it's not like it's just a update on your computer. Like you have to manually do that. And we used to have like a whole army of interns that would be in there switching wristbands out and shredding the old ones. So, but I like that. I mean, because Ryan, he knows what Georgia's about. They're about cheating. They're about trying to gain an edge. Again, they found a camera in the Georgia Dome, the Mercedes-Benz Dome, unmanned, pointed at the practice. Nobody's around to claim it. Oh, it's just a promo shot. Just happens to be on the practice field, and they didn't buy it, and they shouldn't buy it because they know what it is. Like the people at the Peach Bowl, they want Georgia to win, because the people that run that, they're proud of Georgia football, and I can't blame them. If they were playing a bowl game in Cleveland and the Great Lakes Sports Commission was running the bowl game, they would want Ohio State to beat Georgia if we were hosting them. So I don't know. I think it's people think it's crazy and it's conspiracy stuff. And I didn't search that out. I got that from a rock solid source inside the program that told me that was what went down, and they weren't going to make us think about it. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting deal. Nevada. I was going to say people they're loving that prediction. Nevada. I'm going to ask Nevada this one. Are you getting 2014 Sugar Bowl vibes from this game?
No, I am. I mean, I think there's a lot of similarities to the game. I think, the build-up's kind of the same. I think, certainly, you're talking about an Alabama team that, was really, really good, but, had some flaws and was beatable. And, I think for Ohio State, the great thing about this spot, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, but just the fact that everybody's picking against Ohio State and Ohio State can come in as an underdog. I mean, that's just a great spot for the Buckeyes. The power of expectations for Ohio State in that Michigan game this year, playing in Columbus, where everybody thought that they'd come out there and clobber them and they'd redeem themselves from the year before. The weight of expectations can be really heavy sometimes. And I think these 35 days of, hey, we're not even going to be in the playoff, everybody's picking against us, to, hey, nobody's giving us a chance in this game. Man, Ohio State has done really, really well in these spots historically. And there's no reason to believe that they won't overachieve tomorrow night. And if they overachieve tomorrow night, then they're going to come out victors, and we're going to have one more game to play, probably against Michigan for the national championship. And boy, how perfect would that be? So all questions will be answered in the next 24 hours. That's for sure.
All right, question from Alva Coakley: who starts at running back tomorrow, Nevada?
I'd say Dallin Hayden. I'd say Dallin takes. That would be my guess. Having said, it wouldn't shock me with any of the three. And frankly, the running back rotations have been an absolute mystery. I've said it before, but I'm absolutely agnostic about any of the three. I think Dallin, a healthy Mayan, or a Chip, to me, they're almost interchangeable. So I don't think that there's any real advantage that we're going to get out of any one of them. None of those three guys are Trey Henderson. I mean, Trey Henderson's a guy that if he gets the ball, he can take it and split the D and take it to the house. And none of those three guys are that guy. But that's okay. They're really good college running backs, and all we need them to be tomorrow is really good and dependable. Hold on to the ball, get the yards that are blocked up for you, and we'll be just fine. But my pick would be Dallin.
41 national analysts have picked so far. 2 of them picked Ohio State. Are you surprised by that? Are you just kind of, that's kind of chalk? That's kind of how, the sheep go. A lot of Ohio State beat writers have picked Georgia to crush Ohio State. Your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, well, I think it's, anytime that you're picking a team that's the 6-point favorite, that's definitely the chalky pick. And I'm going a little bit against the grain, but I know what I see. I know what I see, and I feel like I've had a really good hand on this Ohio State team. And, for Ohio State to be in this spot this is just, it's really unprecedented because there's never been an Ohio State team that's got the second chance after as big a loss as they had this year, and it doesn't get any bigger than losing a game against a 2 versus 3 matchup or whatever that was. You lose that game, and then still everything's right in front of you. That's never happened before, and I think that's the X factor in the game. I think Ohio State will take advantage of that, and I'm happy to be in the minority on this pick because I certainly don't want to be lumped with the rest of those guys. That's for sure.
I totally agree. I think that sometimes you just have to go off of your intuition. Again, it's just one of those things where you look at kind of how the flow of the games have gone. Michigan obviously has an outstanding running game. They're physical. And frankly, our guys played poorly. Like, I mean, we had some guys that were really good players that played their worst games, maybe of their careers against Michigan. And I don't count on that happening again. I don't know why that happened, but I think they're going to be motivated. This is a great comment, Chris Lane. I had to put this up here. Kirk is killing the energy drinks. Nevada, I've had comments in YouTube that say I should keep being me and keep chugging water on the thing. I know you hate that. So I won't do that to you because I know how much you hate it, but there are people that actually love that. So that'll be like the new super chat. If someone puts a super chat that tells me to chug an entire liter of water, I'll do it. But I thought I was just dying laughing.
I want to hear you eating sushi on the thing or something like that, or something else.
Like chicken wings, mozzarella sticks.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do that easily.
We can just have like a little Kirk cam or something like that, little thing there, and have the little mic on it, and you can just like slurp it all in there. It'd be awesome.
I'm gonna start. You know what I'm gonna start doing? Concept called Scoop Eats. Where I eat food and I judge it about how good it is. So I'm gonna take my entire desk set up to like a hotel buffet and sit there and eat it, and just open up the pan. Ooh, look at the steam. Ooh,
you need to do it after you've worked out, so you're all sweaty and everything like that.
Oh yeah, and just skip the shower, skip the deodorant,
awesome.
just soaked in stank sweat. We had to push this. I don't know. We had to push this a little bit because I usually get a workout in the afternoon, early night, and I was like, yeah, we got to go to 8:30 instead of 8, and got to get it in, man. This body's gonna keep on cranking along as I'm doing this stuff. It's funny. Well, it's funny. This is great. So a guy named Pete Scott is on here and he says Nevada Buck does not want to predict the score. I was like, he already did predict the score. You got to join Buckeye Scoop to get the score. Nevada, if you want to give them the score, you can. If not, you can sign up for Buckeye Scoop because the score has been out there for 5 hours for Nevada at least. You put up your game projection, and you're on the heater of heaters right now, gambling in the bowls. So you've had a really good handle on these games. So, Bill Green bet on Ohio State today. So,
Yeah, no, it's been a good bowl season. It's been a good betting season. I've had a good feel for this Ohio State team, and I think they're going to deliver one more time for us tomorrow. And I don't think the season's going to be over by tomorrow night. I think it's going to continue on. I think we're going to be having these nightly chats here for at least the next 9 days, talking about the lead up to the national championship game. I really do believe that.
No, I totally agree. I think that these guys, they're hungry. There's nobody that nobody's picking these guys. These guys have been beat down. Their families have been beat down. They've had a miserable existence. And the cool thing is, from the guys I've talked to, and the people I've talked to inside the Woody Hayes and inside the program, they've been taking this out on each other. And it has been nasty, physical, violent. And I've been a part of teams like this where it's like you lose a game, everybody's angry, coaches are on the verge of getting fired. Players are, they're mad at each other for not doing each other's jobs, and practice gets real nasty. And again, that's kind of what it's been, So I've seen that energy before, and I'm like, man, I actually kind of like it. I really like it, as opposed to we beat Michigan and then we just kind of waltzed into this game, and we'd probably be playing out in LA, or excuse me, in Arizona in the Fiesta Bowl. We'd be playing, Michigan or TCU. We'd be playing TCU. Obviously, Michigan would be the 4 seed. I'd much rather be the 4, nobody picks us, and just an angry team that's been beat down and picked apart. And the thing I always look at is Vegas has us as the number 2 seed overall right now on the big board to win the national title. So Vegas thinks we're the second best team. So that really, it's a 6-point dog really isn't much, especially when it's in Georgia. It's a home game for them, defending champions. 6 points is nothing. I mean, we went into that Utah USC game and we went into that TCU K-State game, and those were both 6-point games, and the underdogs both won outright, and they weren't even close. They were blowouts. So I don't know. I totally agree. This is a great thing from Chris Lane. Can't kick field goals. Nevada, you talked about 4 downs and how important it is to use all 4 downs. Talk a little bit about that, and we will wrap this thing up. You talked a lot about how the word of the day is aggressive, and I totally agree with you. Like, these guys have to be aggressive. They have to go after it tomorrow. Burn the boats. Get after them as hard as they can. Your thoughts on using all 4 downs for Ryan Day tomorrow?
Well, I think it's of paramount importance. I put that right next to tempo. The third thing, in the red zone, you've got to present that quarterback run, and you've got to show that early. And CJ's got to be willing to pull that thing out. And he's had opportunities this year where he would waltz into the end zone and score. And said we've been stopped in short yardage, especially in the red zone. And CJ's, this is 2 years now. He does not have a rushing touchdown the last 2 years. So I think it's the time to break that tomorrow. I think it's time to break those tendencies, show that. I think that'll open up an awful lot of things, especially in the red zone, where you're absolutely right. This is going to be a game of touchdowns. You can't be going out there and kicking field goals. You can't be dependent on that to win this game. Use all 4 downs, run CJ in the red zone, and let's get her done.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's the strategy. You got an angry team going to bed tonight. They get to play for it all tomorrow. Just got to treat it like you're playing the national championship tomorrow. I mean, you're playing the big dogs in their backyard. Nobody's picking you to win. And what an opportunity for the Ohio State Buckeyes tomorrow night in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. So I'm going to wrap this thing up. Again, we appreciate you guys that tune in every night. Thank you, Sue. We are going to have a pregame show tomorrow and a postgame show. We hope you join us. We are the leading experts on Ohio State football. We have had a fantastic following. Our message board is just supremely active. We have an incredible community. We appreciate all of you that are part of our community, and all of those of you that should be a part of our community need to sign up at BuckeyesScoop.com. I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight on your Friday night as you're watching Tennessee beating Clemson 14-3. I kind of have it on the background. But again, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you, you regulars that show up. I noticed your names a lot. Always appreciate you guys. I would love to have you guys join BuckeyesScoop.com because our site has just been fantastic. There's going to be a lot of portal stuff going on in January, a race to the second signing day, who's going on into winter workouts as we've built out the depth chart for spring next year. With the way the portal is and the way transfers are and with recruiting and NIL, the message board literally never sleeps now. So it is like a nonstop 24-hour day thing. And we'd love to have you guys on there. So if you guys are the biggest and best Ohio State fans in the land, consider joining BuckeyesScoop.com. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you guys give us a like. That really helps us dramatically. Subscribe to our channel as well. That is huge. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a 5-star review. That helps people find us. Appreciate you guys. As always, spread the good word of Buckeye Scoop. We appreciate you guys. We love taking your questions, love interacting with you guys, and it is a blast to get to know you guys, and we appreciate seeing you guys. And it's time to beat the Bulldogs. You guys ready for it? We're ready for it. BuckeyesScoop.com. We will have a massive game thread going pregame and postgame coverage. Again, we appreciate you guys so much. We love you guys. Hope you guys have a great New Year's Eve. Be safe, have fun, and most importantly, let's beat the Georgia Bulldogs. So thank you guys. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. You guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks. Let's beat the Bulldogs.